The fifth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the most exalted books in the portion of the Vedas that deal with spiritual knowledge, offers a bewildering explanation about the structure of the universe. According to this explanation, the earth is part of Jambudvipa, a gigantic flat structure that divides the universe in half. In the lower part, there are subterranean worlds, inhabited by the Asuras, demoniac beings, while the upper part is filled by numerous stars and planets organized in disks. Not only that, but our South Ocean is just the first one in a series of concentric oceans intercalated with concentric islands. For one with a little bit of scientific background, this explanation can appear purely imaginative, but if we go beyond the surface, it's actually very complex, deep, and intriguing. First of all, the Vedas also give a view of the universe that is very similar to modern science. In the Surya Siddhanta, the structure of the solar system is described with remarkable similarity to the modern astronomy, with the size, orbits, and distance to the planets being described with pinpoint accuracy. According to the Surya Siddhanta, the diameter of the Earth is 8,000 miles, while modern estimate is 7,928 miles. The distance to Mars is 1.54 AU, astronomical units, while the modern estimative is 1.52 AU, and so on. The Surya Siddhanta even hints on the orbit of Uranus, which was discovered only in 1781. It happens that the Surya Siddhanta explains the universe according to our human sense perception. Since science is also based in sense perception, it's no wonder that the numbers are very similar. However, the portions of the Vedas that deal with spiritual subjects, like the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas, explain the universe according to the sense perception of the Devas, more evolved beings that live in the upper planetary systems. In other words, it doesn't describe the universe we experience with our senses, but the way they experience the universe. It may sound strange that different beings could have such different conceptions of reality, but this is actually something that we can observe even in our own planet. Carnivorous animals, like tigers, see in black and white, while we see in colors. Butterflies can see ultraviolet light that is invisible to us, while certain animals can't see at all, being guided only by smell. Our concept of reality is based on electrical signals our brain receives from their eyes, nose, ears, etc. If one would receive a different set of senses, he would perceive reality in a different way. In other words, we can only understand the world to the extent our senses allow it. The same way a person that is completely blind will never be able to understand what color is, the limitations of our senses prevent us from seeing and understanding many things that are experienced by higher beings. Apart from physical differences, there is also a difference in consciousness. The concept of reality of an ant is rudimentary if compared to a human being, for example. Similarly, our concept of reality is very limited if compared to the view of more evolved beings. Another way we can understand this is that in the same room we can have different frequencies of radio signals, like AM, FM, TV, 4G, 3G, etc., each one carrying a particular set of information. Although all the signals are simultaneously available, the one you can tune in depends on the device you are using. One that is using an old radio will be able to capture only sound, while others with a television will be able to also see images. One with a phone, on the other hand, will have access to the internet, which includes much more content, including the radio and TV programs. Similarly, our universe is composed of different dimensions, and we can synchronize in each one according to the particular set of senses we got, which is in turn determined by our previous consciousness. According to the Vedas, our concept of reality is determined according to our consciousness. Because of our consciousness, we assume a particular type of body in a certain planet and have access to a certain level of reality. In our case, we live in a gross dimension, where the universe appears cold and almost vacant, with the stars and planets very distant from each other and practically inaccessible for us. We are essentially imprisoned in our little planet by the law of gravity. Even if we send some probes or astronauts at an exorbitant cost to investigate what is beyond, they can't find anything very interesting outside. In our dimension, planets and stars that are part of different planetary systems are distributed in a more or less homogeneous way across the cosmos. But for higher beings, planets of similar level or syntony are closer to each other, and the inhabitants can go from one to the other through interplanetary pathways. It's described, for example, that certain passages in the Himalayas connect our planet to the celestial planets, but only persons with a certain level of consciousness can access such passages. In the Mahabharata is described how Pandavas ascended to the place of Kuvera, the king of the Yakshas, through one of these pathways. For one that is able to cross these pathways, the other parts of Jambudvipa are just a walk away, and therefore the Srimad Bhagavatam describes these different interconnected fragments as a continuous area, which is exactly the perception of one that is traveling through them. Although, in your sense perception, these different parts of the structure are spread through different planets. For one that doesn't have the proper qualification, however, the pathways are invisible and he will be stuck on this planet. As a result, when he crosses the Himalayas, he goes to China instead of the celestial planets. The existence of connected objects that are far apart, as well as shortcuts that allow one to access places that are far away, may seem fantasious, but these ideas are also discussed in modern physics, with the phenomenon of quantum entanglement and the theory of the wormholes, for example. Similarly, the moon is described in the Vedas as a celestial planet where pious souls can live in great delight for 10,000 years. In our gross dimension, however, the moon appears as just a lifeless piece of rock. This leads us to the concept of vertical dimension explained in the Vedas. Suppose you want to visit an office in the 98th floor of a prestigious building in Manhattan. You take a taxi and you go to the ground floor of the building. You went to the right place on the horizontal dimension, but to reach the office, you need to also travel in the vertical dimension, taking a lift or the stairs, going up until you reach the 98th floor. If somehow your credentials don't allow you to go up, then you will be stuck in the lobby. Similarly, even if one is able to go to the moon, without the proper consciousness, he will not be able to travel in the vertical dimension, and will therefore be stuck in the representation of the moon in our gross dimension, which is not so interesting. If one wants to access the celestial moon, he will need to travel by elevating his consciousness and transferring oneself there at the time of death. In this way, he will be able to accept a celestial body with a proper set of senses to interact with the inhabitants there. The great contribution of the view of the universe given in the Puranas is that it gives a mystical and theistic view of the universe, a universe that is teeming with life. By meditating in these descriptions, one can gradually elevate his consciousness and attain the same level of awareness as higher beings. This is the view of the universe that is going to be presented in the Temple of Vedic Planetarium, the TOVP, when it's inaugurated in 2022. Conversely, the materialistic view of the universe offered by modern science, based solely on the observation using our gross senses, offers one a dead universe that leads only to the stagnation of one's consciousness. The great challenge when we study the model of the universe given in the Srimad Bhagavatam is to reconcile what we can observe with our gross sense perception and the ideas of multidimensions, different sets of senses and degrees of consciousness, and the idea of a vertical dimension. Without understanding this concept, one may end up with some simplistic or limited understanding.
Krishna So at the bottom of the planetary display we have Shesha holding up the earth. This is Shesh, the empowered incarnation. There we have Ananta speaking Bhagavatam to the four Kumaras, and above the 7 subterranean planets. Here we can see Jambudvip, the central island of Bhumandala, and Bharatvarsha is situated on the southern side of that. There's 8 other Varshas with Ilavrita Varsha in the center, various supporting mountains with large trees upon them described in Srimad Bhagavatam. In the very center of Ilavrita Varsha is Mount Meru, a golden mountain. Atop Mount Meru are the cities of important demigods, Lord Brahma in the center, the 8 Dikpalas in the cardinal directions and sub-directions. Moving out, we can see the broader Bhumandala, 7 concentric islands and oceans surrounding them. The 7th of these islands is Pushkaradvip. On that island is Manasotra mountain, and on the mountain there's various cities of demigods such as Indra. Out further is Lokaloka mountain. These large elephants stand atop Lokaloka mountain to balance Bhumandala. Outside of Lokaloka mountain is Aloka Varsha, which is dark. The rays of the sun and the other luminaries extend up to Lokaloka mountain. On Manasotra mountain here on Pushkaradvip, the sun travels above this mountain at the southernmost point of its annual orbit. Above Bhumandala is Bhuvarloka, which is the residence of the Charanas, Siddhas, Yakshas, Gandharvas, and above there is Swargaloka, beginning from the sun and extending up to the pole star Dhruvaloka. This is the moving part of the planetary display. Here we can see the sun and the moon moving in their chariots. The chariots are being drawn by horses moving in the anti-clockwise direction, but they're traveling with the wheel of time, moving in the clockwise direction faster, so it looks as if they're moving backwards. Above them are the zodiac of stars, more planets, and another realm of stars. So here we can see everything moving with the Kala Chakra, circumambulating the axis that connects Mount Meru with Dhruvaloka. Above these planets, we come to the planet of the 7 sages, the Saptarshi. You can see them here. They're commonly known as the Big Dipper, and then Dhruvaloka, the pole star. On the ocean of milk situated there, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who is the Paramatma within everyone's heart, he resides on Anantashesh. Moving up beyond there, we have Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. In this video, we haven't included many of the details for there, but on Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, we have residences of the Lord, such as Lord Varaha, Lord Vamana, and so on. Here's Brahmaloka, and on Brahmaloka, we also have a form of the Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu as the Sahasra Shirsha Purush. Beyond there is the 7 coverings of the universe, earth, water, fire, etc. And outside of the universes is the abode of Lord Shiva, Shiva Loka. There he resides eternally. Beyond Shiva Loka, we come to Mahavishnu, Karanodakashaya Vishnu, with innumerable universes that are emanating from the pores of his transcendental body. Here you can see him being served by Rama Devi. Then we come to the Brahmajyoti, the effulgence of the Lord's transcendental body. Penetrating through the Brahmajyoti, we come to the Vaikuntha planets. We're showing 24 planets of the Vaikuntha realm in this model. The Lord with 4 arms is holding the conch, disc, club, and lotus, and the various combinations of those 4 make 24. Then we come to Goloka Vrindavan. Here we can see Radha Madhava, but we'll also be showing the other primary rasas. Krishna with the cowherd boys, Krishna being served, Krishna with Mother Yashoda. So this is an overview of the planetary display to be shown in the main dome of the temple.